Hey everybody, welcome to our monthly leadership video. This month we want to talk about leading on empty. Just before we get started, I want to say an enormous thank you to Michael and Whitney Larson and all of their team that help us do small groups. Small groups have been one of the absolute essential areas of ministry over this COVID crisis, and it was because we've had such healthy small groups, such healthy small group leaders, such healthy small group coaches, that we've really been able to stem a lot of the adverse effects of being isolated as a people. So I just want to take a moment just to acknowledge Michael and Whitney and their team and all the work that they do for us in leadership in small groups here at the Well, and say thank you so much to them. So if you're seeing this and you have a chance, please shoot them a text, drop a line, maybe make a comment down below, letting Pastor Michael and his team know how much we really appreciate him and all the work that they have put into this. Well, last month, we finished up a series called Hindsight's 2020, and the idea was that we wanted to learn as we were struggling, that we didn't want to wait until we had experienced the full weight or the full measure of all the negative consequences of COVID or really anything in our life before we pause to take stock and really learn the lessons well that we can glean. We talked about all different kind of statements that we make about it's not that sometimes you succeed and sometimes you learn, that it's not a matter of whether or not you fall down, it's whether you get up. All of these different kind of sayings that all have one main insight, and that is make sure whatever you're doing, whether you're succeeding, whether you're struggling, whether you're full on failing, that you're growing. That's the most important thing. This month, we're actually moving in to our season of legacy or making a difference with a series called Out of Nothing. And we're kind of reflecting on the idea that God created ex nihilo. It means out of nothing. That God is so powerful, He's so creative, He's so amazing that He creates where there is nothing. And He actually has placed us as His preeminent work within everything that He has created, and He has stamped us, He has sealed us, He has marked us with His image and His character. And in the same way, He wants us to help things grow, to be creative. Now, we can't create out of nothing, but there are all these beautiful stories that when we will take whatever minuscule thing we have and we will leverage it for the kingdom, somehow God leans in, He takes notice, and He always does something amazing with it. We have verses like where He says, listen, not even a cup of cold water could be given in my name that I won't be a part of, that I won't take advantage of, that I won't lean into, that I won't reward and acknowledge. And we have all these beautiful stories about when people had come to the very end of their resources and they gave what little they had left, or they came to the end of their time and they were willing to do just a little bit more, or they came to the end of themselves and they were willing to have themselves poured out like a drink offering. That it was in those moments, it was in those times that God did some of His greatest miracles. But the reality is in leadership is that even though in faith we can give whatever little bit we have and trust that God is going to do something big with it, as leaders, we don't want to lead from a place of emptiness. We don't want to lead from a place of feeling dry and stretched thin or burned out. And so today I want to talk about how we can sort of juxtapose these two positions of growing and what it takes for us to really grow in the midst of a pandemic, and being willing to serve to the very edge of what we have, and then how do we come back and fill those places up again. So I want to talk to you. We're going to kind of use the series that we just came out of to give us a little bit of structure, because those places that COVID has hit us the hardest, honestly, are the places that a lot of times as leaders, we feel hit in all the same ways, whether we're in the midst of a COVID pandemic, whether we're in the midst of just our own relational struggles, whether we're just in a high work season or circumstance or situation, or just because of the seasons of life that we go through. Oftentimes we experience all of these same struggles. So I want to talk about them so that we understand that God will take whatever little we have and do something great with it, but we want to make sure and do the hard, diligent, consistent work to make sure that we have at least a little something in the tank, in our hearts, in our spirits that we can draw from, and that we're not leading from a place of being completely empty. So we looked at 4 different areas in our series, Hindsight's 2020. The first one was health. And you guys remember Tony actually shared a message. It was one of our last outside messages. It was our Baptism Sunday. Phenomenal week. We all had a blast. And he kind of brushed through physical and emotional, really to jump to the idea of spiritual health. And I want us just to pause for a moment and back up and think about our physical and our emotional health, because how we are physically and how we are emotionally is going to have an enormous toll on who we are as leaders and our capacity to actually be able to lead our people effectively and to lead our people consistently. And that means our people in the church, our people in the workplace, our people in our community, or just the people in our homes. So the truth is that our physical life and our emotional life are actually tethered in an inseparable way. Recently, Walden University did a research study to help us understand how important it was for, even in the midst of COVID, while we were sort of sheltering in places and gyms were closed, that we still take care of our physical man. And they gave us top 5 psychological benefits to exercise. The first one, and we all know this, it reduces depression and anxiety. And how does it do that? Well, as you work out, your body creates endorphins, the sort of the euphoria drug in your body that actually raises your mood. It raises your spirit. And so going for a walk, going for a run, lifting a few weights, doing a little bit of yoga, turning on some kind of anaerobic video, and working out for just 30 minutes goes a long way to maintaining both your physical and your mental health. Number 1. Number 2, it's a great stress reliever. I've always said exhaustion is good therapy. If you've ever done a big workout and at the end of it, you were so exhausted you didn't have time or capacity to be stressed about any of the other things, you sort of pounded it out on the street or on the weights or on the bag or however it is that you work out, and immediately you felt some of that stress leaving your body. Number 3, it increases self-esteem and self-confidence. When we feel good about the person that we're looking at in the mirror, and I'm not just talking about being fit or tall or skinny or any of those things, but just knowing that we're making good decisions about what we eat, good decisions about how we're being with our bodies, taking care of it. Remember, it is a temple to the Holy Spirit. It gives us a little bit of extra motivation, a little bit of extra confidence, a little bit of extra oomph when we go to work, when we go to lead, when we go to speak. And so it's a tremendous boost for us. Number 4, we sleep better. Scientists have demonstrated over and over and over again that when we have some kind of regular exercise regimen, that we are going to enter into better, consistent sleep patterns. Since COVID, if you're anything like me, chances are there have been a few times when your sleep pattern got turned upside down. You were staying up too late. You were sleeping in too long. You were finding yourself taking an afternoon nap. And all of a sudden, you found, even though you might be sleeping as much or even more, you found out you felt less rested. When you get back on those schedules and on those routines, you actually start to sleep better. And finally, you'll actually experience a brain boost. Cardiovascular exercise actually creates new brain cells called neurogenesis, and that actually improves your brain's performance. So imagine as you're running or working out, you're actually generating new brain cells, and not only that, but through the hippocampus, campus, you're actually boosting memory as well as creativity. So if you're thinking about what you're going to talk about in your group, what you're going to present at work, how you're going to get your family to that next step in your development in faith or relationship, honestly, you might be one workout away from the idea that's going to sort of change everything. So just want us to understand that taking care of our body, taking care of our physical and emotional man is enormously important for us being the kind of leaders we want. Now, that doesn't mean that we mix up the priority, right? Tony was absolutely right to emphasize that idea of our spiritual health even above our physical and emotional health. In 1 Timothy chapter 4:8, it says, physical training is good, but training in godliness is better, and it has promises not only for this life, but also for the life to come. So, I'm not saying that you take up your quiet time, your triple challenge time to go do a workout. I'm saying try to carve out time to do both. And if you can't work out every day, 30 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week is going to make an enormous difference in your leadership. So make sure that you're taking care of that part of your life. So that was the first week. The second week we talked about finances, and I got to share a little bit. And for those of you who felt like I was kind of giving it to you on the nose, I would love to apologize, but I'm not going to. Go back, listen to the message again and all the places that hurt. Hopefully, if you're taking steps, those things are going to feel a little bit better as you continue to do that. But at the same time, I want you to know, when we think about our finances, it's still important that we honor our 5th core value, which is, that's right, have fun. Make sure when you think about your finances, it's not just a drudgery. It's not just about bills. It's not just about charity. It's not just about being responsible. Every now and then you need to cut up and order the steak. Every now and then you need to order surf with your turf. Whatever it is that you love, from time to time you need to treat yourself. During this COVID crisis, Carrie and I actually were losing a lot of our income, and we were spending more money because we had kids in the house and we had several things go wrong. And in the midst of all that, Carrie knew that I was really, really, really wanting a brand new fire pit. And so for our anniversary, she was able to take a gift that was given to us for a funeral that we had done, along with the birthday money that she was going to get me, and kind of pool everything together and pull in even some of her own money and get me this toy that I wanted. Now, granted, I want it so that our family can gather around the fire pit in the backyard and spend time together. There's all kinds of benefits for us as a family, but she wanted me to be able to enjoy some of what we were working so hard to create. And in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 18, it says, even so, I've noticed that there's one thing at least that is good. It's good for people to eat, drink, and enjoy the work of their hands under the sun during the short life that God has given them, and accept their lot in life, accept their circumstances, accept their situation, accept where God has them. And it's good to receive wealth from God and health to enjoy it. In other words, God wants you to enjoy and to love what is going on in your life right now, to enjoy the work of your hands and to accept this is indeed a gift from God. And God keeps these people so busy enjoying life that they can't take time to brood over the past. What happens is when all we're doing is work and drudgery and stewardship and budgeting and all those kinds of things, we can start to feel a little bit aggravated. We can start to feel a little frustrated. But when we take a little bit of time to enjoy, not everything, but a little thing of what God has given us, then we're able to enjoy our life and honor the Lord and live out the full measure of our values. Number 2. Number 3 is community. Now, here's the thing I want you to hear me say before I get into this. There's no such thing as hats. Everyone say there's no such thing as hats. Now, I know some of you are thinking, Jerry, I'm wearing a hat right now. Well, what I mean is every now and then you hear someone say, like, I'm going to take off my leader hat. I'm going to take off my dad hat. I'm going to take off my pastor hat. I'm going to take off my coach's hat. Guys, there's no hats. There's just people. And to be a person of integrity means that you're the same person all the time. You're the same person on the job as you are at home, as you are on the field, as you are at school. Wherever you go, you should be consistent. That's what it means to have integrity. And yet, as leaders, it is important that we live sometimes where we don't have to lead. Let me just say that again. As leaders, it's important that we live places sometimes where we don't have to lead. In other words, we need places in our life where we're walking with brothers, people who are at the same level that we are, that we can kind of share what we're going through without feeling like we need to bear the weight of what's happening in that situation. And we all need to be places where people are ahead of us, where they're going to lead us rather than us lead them. So it's important that we're not constantly putting ourselves in a position where we're being drawn off of all the time. Psalm 127 verse 2 says, "It's useless for you to work so hard from early morning until late at night, anxiously working for the food that you eat. For God gives rest to his loved ones." So in community, make sure that all your community isn't a thing that is drawing on you, that you have community that's actually inspiring you, challenging you, competing with you, and relationship community that's actually pouring into you. And finally, the last one is the idea of our careers, our education, our businesses, our trajectories. We all had a plan in January of 2020 that in March of 2020 got hijacked. Now, maybe your trajectory pointed sharply up. Maybe your trajectory pointed sharply down. But the reality is there's not many of us that COVID has not somehow interrupted our plans, our education, our business in some way or another. I just want you to know to learn to hold those things lightly. As leaders, one of the most frustrating things is when what we intended, what we wanted, what we were pushing towards doesn't match what we're experiencing. And often it's because we put too much expectation on ourselves for the end product. After all, Scripture says some sow, some water, but it's actually God who causes a thing to grow. And Proverbs 19, verse 21 says, "You can make all the plans you want, and men do. Many are the plans of men, but the Lord's purpose is always going to prevail." I want you to take peace today in the knowledge that God is on the throne. God is in control. So it's okay for you to take time to work out, to rest. It's okay for you to take a little bit of what God has entrusted you and have fun. Have fun with your spouse. Have fun with your friends. Have fun with your kids. It's okay for you to find places where people can pour into you and just be real. And finally, for you to hold those plans lightly. If you do that, you'll find that you won't be trying to lead from a place of being empty. And God is going to help you make a mark and do some amazing things with whatever little you have left to give to God. Thanks so much for giving me just a few minutes. I love you. I bless you, trusting that God is growing you in your ministry, in your business, in your home, in your community. If you have any questions, you can call us at the office anytime. You can email me, jerry@cometothewell.org. You shoot me a text, however you need to get in touch with me. We are here for you, we promise. And until the very next time, I pray God's blessing on you. Thanks so much.